That's a good sign. That's a better sign. Good evening.
Hello.
Welcome to YouTube Live. We have not done a YouTube Live before, but we promised on Monday that we would, and there'll be more. So it's nice to be on YouTube Live. We're going to. It isn't that I'm disconnected and I'm being rude, but because we're on YouTube Live and we are. Look at that! It actually worked. Technology. What a fabulous thing!
It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, when it works, and it's from hell when it doesn't, right? It's from the devil when it doesn't work. But so I'm using our telecommunication devices, our phones, to share the video, to share
The questions.
that we're live and stuff, and because we can't really watch the questions, or if there are any questions and stuff, so we can see them on Facebook. So you can go to our Facebook pages, which we can continuously check, and do that. Now you can comment here. I think we can't see them on the computer, but we can. But actually, I can see them on my phone. How about that? And I can,
Awesome.
and we can share. So the tech side is working.
And welcome to our boudoir.
Oh, and yeah, you might think this is a little different. Yeah, we moved the bed and the stuff into the kitchen
No, we did not.
for this thing because we care so much about you. We moved everything into the kitchen. No, okay, we didn't move it in the kitchen. This is our bedroom as it is. There you go. I didn't have anything to do with the decoration thereof. I'm not even sure where that came from. I just came home one day and it was there. That's how it is. We started
Target. I'm not sure.
Target.
Target.
Okay. Target. Fine. We started Monday with part one of Sex and Marriage, and we promised that we would do a YouTube Live at 9 o'clock for grown-ups. It's funny when I mentioned this to our pastor on Sunday night. He asked if it was going to be R-rated, and I was like, well, it's going to be for grown-ups.
This is going to be adult talk. So
I don't know if
you have any children around or anything like that, you don't want to listen to some of the things.
Yeah, put some headphones on.
Yeah.
No, and I'm not, and there won't be any in and out, high stroke, technique talk necessarily. So you don't have to worry about that, because I know that makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable, but that's not what we're doing.
Technique talk necessarily.
And you can turn that down, honey. I'll wait.
Because I know that makes a lot.
Technology is a great thing, isn't it? But it does work. And what's cool about it is that this is actually functioning. That it actually works. Again, I'll be sharing the stream with people. So if I seem to be disconnected and on my phone, is because that's.
I'm going to put mine away.
Yes, you having trouble operating this evening.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'll be doing. I'll be copying the link and sharing it so people can participate.
I will be the person talking, mostly. Not really. But we came up with a few topics. Nobody really asked about anything in
Because you're chickens.
particular.
'Cause you're all chickens. You're all big chickens.
But I think there are some things that, well, I kind of started talking about, and then I got reprimanded that it was for tonight.
It was hardly a reprimand.
So,
But we want to make sure that we separate what we do in the day show at breakfast time for a lot of you than what we do here later.
so this is our first evening show, and all of our evening shows will be adult related. So, the first topic that we thought would be a good question and remember, use married now.
Almost everything's okay.
Almost everything is okay.
Like Aventer Gray says on Book of Gray, It was legal. It's
It's
legal.
legal.
It's legal.
And it's okay for married people. And like we said in our first show, part one, make sure you are talking about these things because you don't want to be married to somebody for years and years and then realize that, ooh,
So you wanted me to wear a chicken suit? Really? I love chicken suits. Why didn't you say that 40 years ago? I have
you've been
one.
missing out on the chicken soup.
I had one under the bed. I was gonna wear it, but I didn't know if you were cool with the chicken suit.
So we don't wear chicken.
Somebody should have. Somebody should have said something. Why didn't you say something?
So the first topic is oral sex.
People ask all the time, "Is oral sex okay?" Well, biblically, the Bible doesn't mention oral sex at all. It doesn't mention oral sex at all in any way, shape, or form. So, and it also says the marriage bed won't be defiled. So, those of you who have that question about oral sex, as far as the Bible is concerned, if you and your partner are cool,
If she's okay with it
And-
and he's okay with it,
go ahead and get good at it.
and if you don't know what the definition of oral sex is,
Oral sex is sex. It's oral to genital stimulation. There you go. When the husband performs oral sex on his wife, it's called cunnilingus, and when the wife performs oral sex with on her husband, it's called fellatio. There's all sorts of nicknames and vulgarities
Variations.
of explanations that I'm not going to get into, but I guess that's kind of clinical, but that's what it is. It's oral, your mouth, to genital stimulation. Some people have put that in the. Some people will put that in the camp of foreplay, and if that's foreplay for you, super. Some have put that into the regular camp of sex and lovemaking as an integral part of how they do that, and that's fine, too. But don't think
as a pre portion of the sexual act.
But again, if you have the question, is that okay? Well, inside marriage, that's fine. Now, although President Clinton thought that eating wasn't cheating, the fact of the matter that it is, because it is sex. It is sex.
Yes.
The level of intimacy is raised to a bar that is sex.
And if you happen to be engaged to someone and you all are trying to abstain, several people do that when they're engaged and they're going into the marital thing.
You're not abstaining.
And if you're performing oral sex is sex.
So you're not abstaining. You're not sort of on the fence, sort of like, well, we're just trying to abstain from the sex act. Well, you haven't because again of the level of intimacy involved in oral sex. You haven't. So, but the question comes up all the time: is oral sex really sex? And if you go to the internet and you type in is oral sex really sex? What you're going to find is yes. But you're also going to find a lot of people asking that question. You're going to find that young people are asking that question all the time. Mm-hmm. Because young people like to be legalistic and technical about stuff sometimes. So when it's not coitus, when it's not actually penetration, is it really sex? Well, the fact of the matter is that it is. And you can tell them, you can tell your teenagers, you can tell the kids that you teach, you can tell them that it actually is because, and why? Because of the level of intimacy. There you go. So that's easy. That's easy enough. We talked about
to me, it's quite more intimate than actual sexual intercourse. I mean, that's a very intimate act.
Most certainly it is.
So why would you think you're not being intimate with somebody if you are performing that?
Because you're stupid.
That's a lot more intimate.
Because you're stupid. Frankly, only prostitutes think that that's not intimate, but and jerks. So that's the deal. We're talking about. There are times when you're married about when you have sex. Now, why is sex in marriage important? Because that's really the crux of it. Why is it important? Because I think that it lays the intimacy foundation for a marriage. That's why when you get married, for those first couple of years, y'all hump like rabbits,
And it's fun.
and it's fun. Well, and sex is fun, and it's meant to be fun, so we do it.
Yes.
So the species exists.
God created it so that reproduction would be fun. You think about it, it's really a weird kind of
If
thing.
we were
But
the reason why praying praying mantises don't dominate everywhere is because after the sex act, the female chews the head off of the male and kills it. Who would do who would do this a lot if you knew that at the end of the process
you're gonna die.
you're going to die, and it isn't like you're just going to pass out and die and go to sleep blissfully. Your partner
Violent.
is going to eat you. It's going to kill you. It's going to eat your head. That keeps that population down because it makes the thing not all that pleasant. However, humans, um, it's different. God did it on purpose. He made it feel good, so you do it inside of marriage, especially so you can have children. And while you have children to have godly offspring, and that goes on and on and on too. So that's why. And early in marriage is important because normally younger people get married, and I'm gonna tell you,
Have kids.
having children is a sport for young people. My opinion. Now, we talked about this earlier, that there's all sorts of reasons why you have children young, and it's basically because you can do it. Because not only can you do it, you can handle all the other stuff.
All the things that come along with it, running after them, getting up at 2 and 3 in the morning, and all that stuff that makes you really tired. 50-year-old people like us,
Yeah,
we're gonna be getting up
I'm
anymore.
not interested.
No.
That's the problem.
We
You're
saw
going,
a couple
oh,
today.
Why are you yelling?
Go to sleep.
Go to sleep. I don't care if you wet. Get a towel from the bathroom. Shut up all that noise.
At our age, we don't want to be getting up at
I
2
don't
in the
care.
morning feeding a baby.
I don't care.
And God created it like that for a reason. We saw a couple today that we were at this walk, and they they had 2 little ones in strollers, and she's trying to take care of one, and the husband trying to take care of one, and then you're trying to focus on getting prepared to go walking and doing all this, and it's like
Too much to do.
all we had to do was show up
And we walked, and then got back in the car
and came home
and
took naps.
and that was cool. And there was and our son, who was 27, went and got us lunch.
Yeah.
We didn't have to fix lunch for him. Got to
No.
make sure we feed the baby. No, the baby fed us. So that's what's up right there. So there are advantages. So all of that is for young people, and that's the deal. So that's why. And that's okay. But
And if you're newly married and you're not having a lot of sex, you need to talk.
I think there's something going on when that's not happening. I really do. I think there's something that's going on that wasn't talked about beforehand. I think that there may be some problems or situations that you really need to explore, because I think they're going to bubble up. It's going to bubble up later, and when it does, it's not going to be pleasant. It's going to be the longer you wait, the tougher it is, and it may be embarrassing, and it may be problematical or whatever. And it could be anything. It could be that you were raised in a very puritanical house where you were taught that sex was for one thing, procreation, which it is not, by the way. Making babies, and that was all it was for, and that it was dirty, and women aren't supposed to like it, and you might have been taught a bunch of things. And I say this all the time: we spend our whole life trying to overcome our childhood, our upbringing. So that might be going on. There might have been abuse earlier. that gives people a weird picture of what sex is. There might be any number of things, but you're gonna have to sit down at the kitchen table and have that
Or
conversation.
in the bedroom.
Have it at the kitchen table. It's a lot less pressure at the kitchen table. And just get up and you just get up and get coffee. But you have to have that open conversation because that's going to be really important. You're going to find out it's going to be really important moving on.
Yes. And we mentioned foreplay, that oral sex
Can be part of
can be part of foreplay. What is foreplay?
Foreplay is the event before the event, and foreplay exists for any number of reasons. It has been said a whole bunch of times that the most important sex organ on a woman is actually her brain. That gets people in the mood, and foreplay.
Mainly women.
Guys, I know we've been getting boners since we were 6 years old.
What is a boner?
I think our audience knows what a boner is. I don't think I have to explain to people who are watching what a boner is. We've been getting boners since we were 6 years old. So the level of preparation before intercourse is not. It just doesn't take as long for a man, and that's for good reason. Is part of our animal world sort of connection, but.
Because men are more animalistic about sex than women.
No, I don't think that's it. I think that the animal in us says the animal portion of us, not the human, necessarily the human part, but the animal portion of us prepares men to have sex immediately for, first of all, safety reasons. Because if you're in the wild, if you're an animal in the wild, you don't have time to bring flowers to your bird mate and bring her stuff and candy and have conversation and talk.
And get her in the mood.
No, because something's trying to kill you. So if you want to make an egg or a baby or something, you got to hit it and get it before something eats you.
Yes.
So
Or before she eats you.
Yeah, like if you're a praying mantis, it's like I think everybody's trying to get in there and get out before they get their head bit off, literally. But so there's that, and we have socialized a lot of that out of ourselves, but we're still part of the animal kingdom, and I think that's why. However, women, females, even in the animal kingdom, and birds are a great example. Because birds will do like these little mating dances, and you'll see that in the bird kingdom especially, it's kind of cool because all the birds that are brightly colored are males, and they're brightly colored to get the attention of the girl bird.
Yes,
that's why. I mean, and if you think about that being true, because it is true, like when you see a cardinal or a robin redbreast, because it's about time for you also to see robin redbreast and cardinals. That the ones you see are all male because they're the brightly colored ones.
They're the beautiful ones.
Because they're trying to get the attention of the girls. So, guys, it's not any different. Humans aren't any different. So you wonder why they get the clothes. You wonder why they get the fast car. You wonder why they get the haircut. You wonder why they get the stuff. Why? To get the attention of the girls. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, we are still very much like the animal kingdom. Foreplay, in the sense, in this sense, is getting it can be like the mating dance. It's getting your spouse, first of all, in the mood for sex, and for humans, it serves a very important biological purpose a lot of times because women need to get ready. Their bodies need to get ready. They don't get ready as quickly as males. Like, again, you get a boner and when you're 14,
and
you get a boner when the wind blows. Like
when you're 20, in your 20s, your wife can just walk by you
and touch you, and you go bum, 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 ready to go.
Yes. But she's not necessarily ready, and women require to be lubricated and our bodies do that naturally when you're younger. it prepares for the male to enter into the body, and oral sex can sometimes help with those that process of getting you prepared and make you moist and all this stuff like that. You heard on the what's that movie where she says Michael Douglas.
Mike Douglas is the only man that made me moist.
Moist means that your vagina is getting prepared.
I think they know what moist is. I don't think I would tell them what moist is.
Well, okay.
I don't because we're talking to adults. Y'all,
Yes, we're talking to
it
adults.
prepares, what the vagina has to be lubricated, especially if you're talking about penetration. Now, and the problem with the problem with not waiting and not going through that process, whatever that process is for y'all, is that a lot of times early in a relationship, and especially in a sexual relationship, if you don't wait, then intercourse can be painful. And we just said that nobody wants to participate in anything that painful, that hurts. Except some of y'all, it's a little, little whippies and chainies and hurts and spank me. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you don't want it to hurt.
Yes.
You don't want it. You don't want that part to be unpleasant. So a lot of times it's difficult to get people to understand that that's important. That's why the talking beforehand is so important.
Talk about what turns you on, what makes you him mopping the kitchen floor.
See that changes. As you get older, foreplay starts with the dishwasher. I know.
He does the dishes.
Oh,
and
look.
mops the floor like that Mr. Clean commercial.
It's part of the mating dance. Part of the mating dance. Excuse me, I have to vacuum now.
Yes.
It's part of the mating dance. So that will change as the relationship matures or whatever. So that it is, but from a biological standpoint, it's really important for some people, and you got to talk about it. You got to talk about what gets you going. You got to talk about you got to slow down, and especially if people's body changes, you got to slow down. And I think that's the deal because men don't feel like they have to slow down. It's like, wait, I'm ready. Let's go. And your partner may not be. And if that is something that you don't talk about over time, you'll find, men, you'll find that your wife doesn't like sex with you.
It hurts.
It hurts, or it's
not pleasurable.
It's just not pleasurable. So all these things you have to talk about. And I know, and these conversations a lot of times are ouchy and our most personal and intimate feelings. We get hurt, because men, I've said this before, I'm gonna say it again. Our egos are like lead china. Our egos are like lead china. They are easily. Excuse me, I have to get some crap off the screen from AVG. Thank you. Are like lead china. Now we don't tell anybody about it. But when everything can be considered criticism because that's our manhood and blah blah blah. And
I know how to.
And we're supposed to be doing this, and we're supposed to be good at it, and
nobody is perfect at it.
And the idea is that you can get better.
You don't know each other's bodies totally. I mean, we've been married 30-some years, and we don't know totally because it changes over time.
And while that change is happening, that's when you can speak up.
Talk about it.
That's when you can speak up. And you don't have to wait until you're involved in the act to speak up. Although that's really not a bad time either. But if you can talk about these things beforehand, it certainly makes it
a lot
easier. And finding out is actually now easier than ever. The fact that we're doing this right now, live here on the YouTube is evidence that this information is easier now to find out than ever.
And doing all of these things, the foreplay, the oral sex, and all and the actual act, and talking will help when you're at that climax point. Everybody wants to achieve an orgasm, And what is an orgasm?
You don't have to do that, please.
Okay.
You don't have to do that.
I'll stop it.
Everybody knows what an orgasm is, and let me tell you something else. This is everybody. Of course, everybody wants to achieve orgasm, but orgasm really isn't everything, and not everybody achieves orgasm the same way, and orgasms are different. And guys have to understand that female orgasms aren't the same. Female orgasms aren't what you see in porn. Hardly ever.
Yes.
Because porn is an act, and porn has to be big so you see it. There's a line in a movie called Amadeus that you have to give them that at the end of a song you have to give them a big bang so the crowd knows when to clap. You have to just end, so the audience goes, oh, it's over. So they don't want to clap. And this is what people think orgasms are. They think that they're porn orgasms where they're screaming and yelling and hair flying and people running around and animals screaming. That's not always what it is. Which is why take your time, explore,
learn each other's body
and find out what that is, and what that is for your partner, especially the female orgasm, which people make a lot of jokes it doesn't really exist. I saw a video the other day that it doesn't exist. It's not there, and I think that a lot of that is because that a lot of women they don't know either, which seems crazy.
There are some women that have never achieved an orgasm, and that's some of the reason why they don't like sex.
That they know of.
Yeah, they don't even know what it is.
They don't know.
So you need to read, and you need to go on the internet, and you need to learn what a true orgasm is so that you can figure out what brings you to that point.
And I think a lot of it is because most of women's sexual organs, of course, are hidden, and you're told not to touch, blah blah blah. Where guys, your main sex organ is hanging out there, and it's been hanging out there forever. And the first thing that you were told to do with it is grab it and aim it, so the pee wouldn't get everywhere. So that's a lot of this starts very early in our lives as we move forward, very early. You know what? And I don't think that little girls are able to explore. It's easy to explore your pee-pee. It's just hanging right there. Mm-hmm. Oh, look. Well, move your stomach now.
And we were told that you don't touch your body, you don't explore your body.
Don't play with that.
Don't play with that.
That's nasty. Nasty. And
well, then you don't know what your body wants.
Well, the boy's got to grab his pee-pee and aim it. You got to grab it. You got to be one with your pee-pee. At some point, you can't just let it hang there and let the pee go down your leg. What are you doing? I don't want to touch it. So you pissed yourself, apparently. So you see, so there's a big difference in how women perceive their genitals and how men perceive their genitals, mm-hmm. And so boys know pretty quickly about what's pleasant and what's not pleasant. They know pretty quickly. I think it takes women, for the most part, and again we're talking about generalities. This doesn't mean all y'all, because some of y'all are y'all know how y'all are. It just takes longer for the most part. Not everybody, but it takes longer to figure that out. Yes. But really feel like it's okay to, and if anything you get out of this evening, feel like it's okay to. As a matter of fact,
to know your body.
I'm going to go even further than that. It's important to relationship that you do, that you know what you like. It's easy to know what you don't like, but what do you like? Telling your spouse, no, I don't like that. Okay, how about that? No, that's not the way to do it. That's not the way to do it. It's like trying to find the directions to somewhere. You can't keep saying, "Well, don't turn here." Well, where do I turn? But don't turn here. Okay, you drive.
Where do I turn?
Don't turn here. Okay, That's more. That's more than frustrating. That's more than frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And then people will eventually just give up, and
They lose interest.
that's not what you want.
And unfortunately, most men are going to go somewhere else. And you don't want that in your marriage.
Well, nobody wants that. That's
and
very
some
bad.
women are going to go somewhere else. So,
Which is why you have to go ahead and talk.
Women are going to go somewhere else, either sex.
That's why you have to talk about these things, and that's why you have to be open with them, and try not to. And I know it's hard. Try not to get your feelings involved. Try to look at every situation as a learning experience.
And it's going to better your marriage and your relationship.
And it'll just be, and at some point it'll just be more fun.
Yes.
Because that's what you want, right?
You want to have fun
together.
together.
You want that part of your life to be more fun.
That's why God gave you this person.
Stressful, more fun. Yeah. So it's okay. It's okay to talk about it. Like Avender said, it's legal. You're okay.
It's legal.
It's
You're
legal.
within
You're
the
married.
marriage.
You're married. You're okay. Now, again, I have to say as a disclaimer: none of this stuff applies to the boyfriend, girlfriend, or the wifey situation. God, I hate that word so much. But a lot of y'all use it. None of that apply. None of this applies to that, because you'll find that none of this will work in those situations, because there's not been that commitment. There's not been that spiritual bond, and so none of this will work. So it doesn't apply. So if you're watching and you got a boyfriend or you got somebody that you shacked up with, and you think this is going to work, no. Leave them alone. Let them watch the draft on football on TV, because none of this is going to apply. Leave them alone.
Okay. The next topic.
What?
Sex during your menstrual cycle.
Now I talked about this first because we talked about on Monday that the scriptures say that your body doesn't belong to you. Your body doesn't belong to you, and if your spouse is calling upon you, then you are to respond. Except in those times, see, y'all think I'm going to say one thing, but y'all could be wrong, where you've both decided that this is a time that you've agreed on. This is a time that we're not going to come together. And times in prayer and fasting, and there are particular times, and there are times now where people think that, of course, when the woman is menstruating, that this is not a time. Now, the Bible doesn't mention anything about that.
That you can't.
And there's all sorts of wives' tales that say that it's not a good time, that it's not the time to do that. The reality is, and when you explore it, and when you investigate it, what you'll find is this. The worst thing about having sex during a woman's menstrual cycle is that it's messy.
It's nasty.
Or it can be messy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not harmful, and if everybody's healthy, like if you're not making sure you're in it.
It's the AC.
Oh, it's the AC. Great. It's about 40. It's about 4 degrees in here. It's 3 degrees. But as long as, again, everybody's cool with it.
And you okay with cleaning it up?
Well, there's no problem. I mean, the only thing it is that it can be messy. Yeah. And I know people always wonder about that and say, I don't know. And men, because men we don't know. We've listened to our friends, the most dangerous group of people ever, in the misinformation battle, that say that no, that's not how it works, and a lot of women have heard that that's not that's a time where it's a time.
You don't let him touch you.
It's a week off, blah blah blah. But it doesn't have. It doesn't have to be. There isn't anything. First of all, there's nothing morally wrong about it, and there's nothing physically wrong about it. It can be messy, and that's the only thing, and that's up to y'all.
That's when you have the conversation. Have the conversation that, we're not going to do that, or I'm okay with it. You got to talk to your partner.
And if you're both okay with it, rock on. Can somebody get pregnant during that time?
Yes.
You bet.
You can get
So
pregnant.
don't think that if you have sex during her period that she can't get pregnant, because you think the flow is going the other way and will kill your little swimmers. But if you're young, your swimmers are like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
In the Terminator.
They got little masks on. They got little scuba equipment. Oh, there's a new one right there. So yes, you can still get pregnant during your period. You can. Um,
The next one, during pregnancy. Is it okay to have sex during pregnancy? That's a conversation you need to have again. But it's if your doctor says that you are healthy enough and nothing's wrong, you're not having a complicated pregnancy, then it's fine. Some women tend to, the first trimester, want to have more sex. They are reared up and ready to go. But when you start getting into your, the last trimester and you're 8 and 9 months pregnant, sometimes you don't feel like it so much.
and depending on how big you are, how big it can be. It can be
Uncomfortable.
difficult. Uncomfortable. It can be difficult because just
But
sometimes just sitting down in a chair
can be uncomfortable. Yes. But that's a talk that you and your spouse should have. If you're okay with it. A lot of men are afraid because they think they're gonna hurt the baby and they're gonna hurt their wife or whatever.
You're not gonna hurt the baby. First of all, in the first trimester, baby baby's about this big and about that far from your penis. You know what I'm saying? About that far from your penis. And it's about this big. You're not going to hurt the baby. The baby is in a tub of amniotic fluid that acts as a shock absorber. Baby can't see your penis from there. Baby's not gonna be freaked out like, oh my God, what's that? There's a lot of jokes about that. But no, that's not going to happen. It's just not. It's just not possible. Again, the baby's this big and this far away from the tip of your penis. It's just not going to happen. Your penis is going to be in the vagina where the baby is not.
The baby is nowhere near the vagina when it's growing.
It just isn't.
It doesn't get down there until it's about ready to come out.
So yeah, so you're not going to. It's not. Trust me, guys. It's not gonna be a problem. So again, but the most important thing is to have that conversation and again talk to your doctor. If you're not involved in a high risk pregnancy, and especially where where your wife has to go on bed rest or whatever, which is I'm going to go back to what we were talking about a little bit ago. This is why young folks who are healthier got to do this kind of stuff, have the baby and stuff, because every pregnancy after 40, for a lot of people, is high risk. So that's why young people are supposed to be doing this. And if young people, y'all ain't making babies, then you are hurting us as a society. Y'all need to.
Oh, I think they're making plenty babies.
No, but with each other, the right people.
Yeah,
I ain't talking
in marriage.
I ain't talking about people who just run around like NBA players making 25 babies with 24 women. That ain't what I'm talking about.
No.
But we need that. We need that to happen. So no, sex during pregnancy. Talk about it. Understand it. Get to know each other about it. And if it's something that you're cool with, rock on. Go ahead and do that. So that doesn't necessarily have to be one of those times where you don't.
And don't forget, the oral sex can be done during that time so that you can satisfy each other. And if you're afraid to go through the regular process.
Yeah, just because you can't sell beer doesn't mean you can't drink wine.
The next one is sex after a vasectomy.
Guys, yeah, I know. A lot of you, when you say vasectomy, everybody just went
Vasectomy.
yeah. The only time that you can't have sex after vasectomy is right afterwards, because you're too busy holding a bag of frozen peas to your groin. I
guess you figured out he's had a vasectomy.
And you want to. Let me help you. You want to. Hey, you know what? If your wife says you need anything, I'm going to the store, you'll just say more frozen peas, please. And you won't be eating them. You'll have them down your pants. That's the only time. Having a vasectomy doesn't do to you what it does to your dog. No, I know you get your dog fixed, and it seems like your dog doesn't have a reason to live anymore. He's so docile now. Kill me. Could you just drive me into the woods and leave me? No, but you won't be. I promise you, you will not be that way because your testosterone level will be the same. Frankly, you'll still produce sperm, um, but your swimmers won't be in a little tube called the vas deferens that gets cut. And maybe I'll do one to talk about vasectomies as birth control because I think it's a good option in a marriage. Once you've talked about it,
Yes.
please don't surprise your wife with a vasectomy for Mother's Day. Oh, by the way, honey, look, I have vasectomy for us. Do not
Talk about
talk about that
the
first.
options when you know that you have had all the children that you want, and you got to make some decisions, because a lot of times women don't want to continue to take birth control pills.
Birth control pills are bad.
Are horrible for you.
You don't do it.
So it's an option that the man can do. Willie decided to do it for me because I had been through so many different female issues and all this stuff.
It just made more sense for us that I go do something that, quite frankly, isn't invasive. Um, it isn't. Yeah, it's. I know, guys. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. But that's why I'll talk about the process later if you're considering it. I'll do a video later about what that process is and why you should do it and what happens when you do it. And what doesn't happen is that it doesn't lead to more testicular cancer. It doesn't. It doesn't hamper your sex drive.
No.
It doesn't. It doesn't do
It
any of those
actually
things.
helped our sex drive because then we didn't have to worry about getting pregnant.
You don't have to worry about getting pregnant. You don't. It's one of those things that get taken care of. And if you do get pregnant, you can sue your urologist for every freaking thing they've got. And in certain circumstances, depending on how it's done, it is reversible. The reversible part is a lot more invasive than the original part, and I'll talk about that too. But if somebody gets a vasectomy, that doesn't mean that your sex life is over. Not by any stretch of the imagination. So guys, don't think that if I get my are they going to cut my nuts off? No.
It's not like
No one's going to neuter you like they
neuter you.
like you do a hog or a cow. That's not how it works. But your sex drive isn't going to change. It's not going to. It doesn't affect your testosterone. It doesn't affect, again. You still produce sperm. All those things still happen. So that's one of the misconceptions out there that we're trying to get rid of. That doesn't. I mean, it doesn't happen.
sex after a hysterectomy. And I have had a hysterectomy this last year.
Last year.
Yeah, it was in 2017, and
That was last year.
and that it's pretty much the same as with the vasectomy because I haven't noticed any difference in my sex drive. It depends though on whether you get the ovaries removed and the uterus and everything removed. And I did have the complete hysterectomy, but the only thing that I have is hot flashes. And that's why he's complaining about the air, because I do get hot flashes, but all the other things and stuff.
Send a jacket.
As far as sex wise, I still enjoy sex. I still want to have sex. I haven't had any problems.
So it doesn't affect your sex drive. I think that a lot of people hear other people talk about it, and they sort of take that on. When it doesn't really apply to them, and people do it all the time. You hear your friends talk about this or that. You hear people talking about this or that, and you go, "Me too." Oh, me too. Oh no, and
You kind of talk yourself into being like them or being like, and I quite frankly was a little afraid to have one. I needed to have it because of fibroid tumors, but but it was the best thing that I did because now I'm not in pain. I'm able to walk and exercise and do stuff. I have to keep up with the exercise because it does have a tendency to make you gain weight. So
I think
that's the
that's because of
only
the change in hormones, right?
yes
And
because of the
and and
hormone.
we're avoiding, and this is not part of that conversation, but we are avoiding hormone therapy and that kind of stuff because
Yes.
it just causes, that's the part that causes a whole bunch of other problems. So we can avoid that. That would be good. So vasectomy, hysterectomy. Um,
Still having sex.
People still have sex. It's okay. It's not going to. The only place that it can affect your sex life is in your brain, and because it doesn't necessarily affect your body. Your body's still fine. You still want sex. You still can have pleasurable sex. So no, those aren't things that, again, grown-ups who are in committed relationships like we're talking about will have these questions. Married people will have these questions. You will go to dinner at Denny's and have these questions and not talk about it and not mention it. So that's why we're mentioning it this evening. What else is on the list?
Um, about having medical checkups to ensure that your body is in shape for sex. You don't want to be having sex and you're not supposed to, as far as heart conditions and other medical issues
Stay.
that are going on.
Yeah. That is really, really important. You want to make sure, like all the commercials say, especially for male enhancement and ED, making sure, and ED doesn't mean Mr. Ed. ED means erectile dysfunction. That means your penis won't get hard. Is make sure that you're in physical shape to have sex. Because it should be for the most part, it should be some sort of physical activity. Now it might have been like running a marathon or swimming across the English Channel when you were 22, um,
Things slow down a
and then
little.
maybe when you're 57, it may be more like you walk to the edge of the pool and put your feet in, splash, as opposed to actually getting into the pool and swimming 50 laps. As far as the physical um, portion goes, because that just depends on your health and your physical whatever. So yeah, make sure that it's like an ED commercial. Make sure that you're in shape for sex, and that's really important, because if sometimes the sex isn't pleasurable because somebody's sick.
Mm-hmm.
I was sick. How do I know that? Because I was sick. I have a scar, a 7.5-inch scar on my chest to prove it. I was sick. So
4 years ago, he had heart surgery.
I had triple bypass. Um, and I think I talked about that on a previous video about that situation. So,
Mm-hmm.
so you know what? And if you just refuse, and guys, I know, I know, you just don't say anything. You just sort of man up. Or you think you're man up, and you just sort of push through, right? Because that's what we do. Not always the best idea. Sometimes yes. So please don't think you can't go to work because you got a hangnail. I don't know. It's just so
No.
no. But you know what? If you can't breathe,
Yeah.
yeah, say
You shouldn't
say
be
something.
you shouldn't be out of breath and not being able to breathe if you're having sex.
Yeah.
I
And maybe that's the first diagnostic thing.
mm-hmm.
If you have sex and it takes you a day and a half to get your breath back,
You need to see a doctor.
you should see a doctor. And you go, what brings you in today? Well, I was having sex on Saturday, and hell, it was Monday afternoon before I could see straight again. I was all foggy. I couldn't breathe. I was coughing.
Yeah.
I think I need a chest X-ray.
You need to see a doctor.
Yeah, you probably need to see a doctor in that case. So maybe you use sex as a diagnostic tool. I don't know. That's silly, I know, but making sure that you're in good enough shape to have pleasurable sex, even throughout out the course of your marriage, is extremely important. Yes, that's important.
And we talked about talking to each other about sex, but this is a whole nother show, which we're going to have another midnight session on. But talking to your children that are of age to have sex, you know, kids want to explore and do things, especially this is prom season. So unfortunately tonight,
Yeah, a lot of underage sex going on out there
yeah.
in parking lots and parks all over the country.
So it's important to talk to your children about sex. The sex should be a topic that you can just sit down and talk with your family about. Now, if your kid is 5 and 6 and
Please
10,
don't
no,
burden your 4-year-old with talks about oral sex and
no,
orgasms. Please don't, because there's a whole bunch of people who want to burden this 4-year-old with, you know what? So, son, when you have coitus with your partner,
no. You don't talk to, we're not talking about little children, but we're talking about kids that are in high school and possibly interested in sex, or your young ladies that are starting their menstrual cycles and all the things that are going on with their body.
tell them
You need to talk with them about it.
tell them what it's for. See, it would seem to
Yes.
me, we didn't have a daughter.
Thank God.
There's a part of me that's sad because I would love to spoil a little girl. And there's part of me that is dancing with joy in the street right now, woo, watching all y'all deal with them girls, and all the stuff that comes with it. But it would seem to me that when your daughter has her period, it's important that your daughter knows what her period's for and what it's doing. That she's not done anything bad, and that and she's not sick, and she's not dying,
And it's not a curse.
this is what it's for, and this is how it gets used. It seems like to be a perfect opening
To the sex talk.
to what the sex talk is. So, and you can use that. Boys are obviously a little different for all sorts of reasons. But the most important part is make sure that you always have the line of communication open with your youngster to have the talk, because it's going to be by the time you have to have it is they're in middle school, and everything is touchy and ouchy and embarrassing.
And their friends are telling them crazy crap.
They're just making just making stuff. Somebody's just making stuff up. So it can be tough to have those conversations, and it's tough for some of y'all not to make those conversations weird. Sit down with them in this real formal way to talk about some stuff that they're like, oh, I don't want to talk to you about this.
I'm uncomfortable.
I'm uncomfortable. So this is why we've had the benefit over a couple of churches, because we've only really been members of a couple of churches in our married life, and not really, but that's another conversation.
It's a whole nother story.
It's a whole nother story that doesn't have anything to do with either of us. But basically, I've only served under two pastors for the whole time that we've been married. But both of those pastors have been very, really good about talking to young people about these issues, and helping us along with talking about these issues with our kids. So it's not been weird, and you get help, and you can and you can do that. You can do that with people around you. You can do that with people. But frankly, I think if your church isn't talking to your kids about this kind of stuff, then you might want to consider somewhere else for your kids.
It should be an open conversation that they can go to their youth pastors and whatever and be open and frank and talk. If they don't feel comfortable coming to you with some of the details,
I mean, might not, because they're your kids, and
yes,
and
they don't want to fail you.
I remember being a kid, and these conversations with your parents are weird.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, most conversations with your parents are weird. Even as grown-ups, sometimes conversations with your parents are weird.
Yeah.
They just are. So I completely understand why some kids don't. I get it. I get it. Even kids you have good relationships with, I get it. So the idea for me is that you can find again. I would hope that your church would be a tremendous place, a tremendous resource for someone to help you with that. If you've got a youth pastor or if you just got a main pastor or whatever it is, that you can
Trust them.
trust them enough to tell
To
them
speak what you want
what
to
you would
say.
what you would say. So they could be parents in absentia. Uh,
And
oh,
if you don't belong to a church, you
maybe that's something that you ought to consider too.
yes.
Maybe that's something that you consider. I ain't telling you what to do, because telling y'all what to do is useless. Because you'll do whatever the hell you want to do anyway. Um,
But there are other avenues out there. If you have a counselor or somebody that you trust, don't put your kids' trust into somebody that you don't know their beliefs and what they're going to be saying to your
because
child.
they may say, "Oh, just try everything while you're young, because you have to
And
experiment." Because we've had two and a half generations of people saying that you should that it's okay if you experiment with sex, and now we've got more. Now we got more people with STDs and are screwed up sexually than ever because
and kids have to get shots now for STDs and all that.
when people were saying before, I mean, when you had a whole bunch of people saying that you should just let them experiment. They're going to do it anyway. Blah 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 blah, and all this stuff. And so what you have is a whole bunch of screwed up people because of all sorts of reasons, having all sorts of still having all sorts of ridiculous misconceptions about what sex actually is. And how important it is in the marriage relationship, and get into the marriage relationship, and you've got all sorts of problems now because you've got all sorts of comparisons, and everybody's got all sorts of different histories. And when something that I do get to tell young people is, you know what you don't have to do with sex? You don't have to practice. You
It
figure
comes naturally.
you'll figure it out. You're an animal. You're an animal. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. One of our really, really good friends at church, we were at another girl's wedding in the church. And as they were driving off, this is what Jessica said I thought it was the funniest thing. She yelled out, "If you have any questions, figure it out."
Don't call me.
Don't call me. And because people won't figure it out.
Yes.
So
If you talk to each other.
you will figure it out. And the idea is that you don't need to practice. You need to find somebody that you're sexually compatible with.
Yeah.
You can become compatible.
Because that's all going to change. Like I said in part one, you may be living together and having sex and stuff, but once you get married, you're under a different anointing, different spirit.
It changes.
It changes.
I tell that, like I said, you're right. I tell that story all the time. Yes, and no, we were not perfect.
We lived together.
We
before
we actually
got married.
we actually shacked up. We cohabitated, and we got married on a Saturday, December 7th. We got married, and the night before, I went out with my fifth. That's right, it's fifth. December 7th was Pearl Harbor Day. Completely totally different. So the night before, I went out with some of my friends to a place called Fuddruckers and had beer and hamburgers. Wild times, huh? Woohoo! Yeah, baby. That's always been me. And who'd you stay with? You were over at Barbara's? Where
No,
were you?
I stayed at our apartment,
In the apartment?
and you stayed somewhere else. I think.
I stayed somewhere else. I think I was over at my friend Ted's. Because they thought that they were going to take me out on this drunken revelry. That I was like, no, I don't think so. We'll just go over to Fuddruckers. The same building right now that Jason's Deli is in, that we have lunch almost every Sunday. Play going back to the scene of the crime. And we went to Lettuce Lake Park. We had the wedding, and we came back to our apartment complex and had the reception in the little pool area, whatever, and then went back to the same apartment
Yeah.
that I was just there the day before. and it was different. It felt different. It was different. So let me tell you that, and I love telling that story because people have to understand that once the commitment of marriage happens, and things will change, and then as you grow together, and you have to, and I think you have to purpose to grow together. I think if you leave it alone, you will grow apart. I hate that phrase too. We just grew apart. How's that even possible unless you allow it?
Yes. And the funny thing is that we renewed our vows this past December.
Second.
The 2nd of December
I remember the most recent time, not the time I had
2017. And I don't know about you, but to me, it changed us again.
Yeah, it really did. It was one of those things
It
where
was really weird. It's like
I cried.
weird.
I did. I swear to you, I started crying.
And that day, I was as nervous as I was the first day that I exchanged vows with him.
I think it was I think it was more emotional the second time than the first time. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
And you know, I'm in there with my pastors, with Marissa, with the senior pastor, and she and I talking. She said it's because it's spiritual. It's a spiritual thing. Even at the second time around, our marriage is different now. It's a better thing, and we're closer. And that was when I knew we were going to launch having this program and doing what God has called us to do. And I had already made changes in my career and different things like that, but this was another step, another level into our path, this journey we're on. And renewing our vows changed our relationship again.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was one of those, like a booster shot you have. You remember when you got the vaccination and then later you had to get the booster shot to give it that extra oomph. I think that's what
we got a booster shot.
I think we got a booster shot. It took 30 years, but it's okay. I think that we could have done it earlier, but I think that it worked out like it was supposed. I was the mind that it worked out like it was supposed to work out. Listen, we've been doing this about an hour, so it's about time for us to go to bed.
We have church in the morning.
Yes, we have church in the morning, and you should have church in the morning too. If you have questions,
plus we got a lot of activity in today. We did
Autism Speaks in and we walked 3 times around Raymond James Stadium. I'm not sure how far that is, but you know what I'm sure of? It's a long way.
Yeah. It was like 3 miles.
I don't know if it's 3 miles, but it was a long time. It was a long way for me to be walking today. But in any case.
But we finished, and we weren't last.
Wasn't last. Didn't come in last.
But we had a good time.
The parking lot wasn't empty when we finished.
We were supporting.
Where did everybody go?
We're a friend of ours. And my job, we all went, and it was an awesome thing,
It was cool. We had a good time.
Yes.
And
we are tired.
We're some good folks, and I'm a little tired, and I'm gonna take a little nap here for about 8 hours. So again, if you have any questions, just write them in the comments below. Write them on Facebook, write them here on YouTube or whatever, and we'll try to address them. Some of them we can't address at 9 a.m. But we will plan on doing another one of these sessions and
we'll do this quarterly
and address them, at some point as needed. All right, we got to get out of here and make room for somebody else. So until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sake, y'all take care of yourself.
Love you.
See you. Peace out. We're out.